Sister hated me for stealing my husband from her and has been trying to seduce him for years. She just confessed her love for him again after her own wedding. I, 24F, have been married to my husband, 27M, for about 2 years. My sister, 26F, and her husband, 26M, are high school sweethearts. My sister and I have always been close. Despite the small age gap, she acted like my second mother, so I never doubted her in anything. Let's call her Jane. My husband, let's call him Bob, and I met at uni. I was 20 and he was 23. He excelled in both academics, sports and looks, and was well known around campus because of that, so obviously, I had a crush on him. Jane also attended the same uni. Because I was new, she included me into her big circle of friends and he was a part of that. I never made a move because I respected Jane and her friends. I didn't want to cause any trouble or make things awkward. She meant the world to me. Eventually though, Bob and I became close friends. I grew to like him more. I also noticed that Jane rarely interacted with him, which was odd considering she was close to almost everyone in her circle, but I never said anything. I did end up telling her I liked him though. She told me not to get my hopes up because he wasn't interested in any relationship. I was crushed, but tried to see him as a friend. He ended up confessing to me on my 21st B-day and we began dating, which obviously resulted in marriage and here we are now. During the entire time we were dating, Jane started to distance herself from me. We did have a talk about it when Bob and I first started dating, and I told her I'd break up with him if she wasn't comfortable with it considering he's her friend, but she rejected the idea. She hugged me and said she was happy for me, so I took her words for it. She still distanced herself though. Her husband, boyfriend at the time, we'll call him Jim. He didn't attend uni, but his dad has a small construction business that he works at. Jim's a good man. He did everything for Jane, but due to our culture, women can't leave the family house until marriage, so Jane and I still lived with our parents then. So when Jim had saved up enough money to buy a house, he proposed to Jane and she said yes. Fast forward a year and Bob proposed. I said yes. Up until now, all Jane had done was distance herself from me, but when I sat my family down and told them the news, she cried. I thought she was crying from happiness until my mom told me I should have taken my sister's feelings into consideration before telling them. It was odd. It seemed like no one was happy. My mom took Jane to her room, but my dad stayed. He told me that Jane was having a hard time with Jim. I believed them. Since then, Jane distanced herself more from me. When I tried speaking to her, she'd reply curtly, and when I brought it up with my mom, she said that she's going through a hard time so I shouldn't make it worse. So I left her alone. That was until Bob confessed that Jane had been texting him consistently for the past few weeks. He showed me the texts. She'd ask if she could call or meet him. She'd also attempt to text him late at night. The last one was when she sent him photos of her in revealing dresses and asked him to choose the prettiest. That's when he decided to tell me about it. Before anyone says anything, no, Bob didn't lead her on. His texts were dry, and frankly, if I wasn't so upset with my sister, I'd say, rude. He felt uncomfortable, but decided to put up with it because she was sister. He also admitted that Jane had confessed to him years ago, but he had rejected her. It felt like everything was falling into place when he told me that. I was so hurt by her, I immediately confronted her when I got home. I thought she'd at least be ashamed, but she said that I stole him from her. What's worse is that my mom sided with her. I've always had a feeling she was my mom's favorite, but she was my favorite too. It made sense everyone loved Jane. I loved her too, but she betrayed me in the worst way possible. She even said she hated me and didn't want to see me again. No one sided with me. So I packed my things and left. My dad told me that I shouldn't leave because it's not appropriate for an unmarried girl to leave her parents' house. My mom even called me a whore for leaving to go to Bob's place. That hurt a lot. It took a long time for me to get over what they did. When I think about it, it still stings. Bob and I lived together before marriage. I also cut contact with my family, and Bob and I got married without inviting anyone from my side aside from a few close relatives. It was a lovely wedding by the way. But a week ago, my cousin told me Jane had her wedding. I guess she went ahead with it. Today though, Bob showed me a message he got on Instagram from her. He hadn't seen it because it was in the request section, but it dated back to a week ago. She confessed to him again and told him she'd make him happier than me if he gave her the chance to. I am upset. Really upset. He screenshotted it and blocked her and asked if it was okay to send it to Jim, but I said no. I don't know why. Jim deserves better, but I just don't want to deal with her anymore. I can't take it. I feel so guilty to keep this away from Jim. However, I don't want this to blow up in my face, especially when Bob and I have been living so peacefully now. Edit. Thank you for all the solid advice both on this post and my other post. I think, deep down, I was still attached to the family who raised me, especially my sister. Your comments have given me a reality check. For those asking what I meant by this blowing up in my face, I know my sister. I'm afraid she'll come to my house with my mom and escalate things to the point of police is needed. But, I also understand that she'll keep harassing my husband and ruining Jim's life further if we keep quiet. I took your advice and told Bob he could contact Jim if he wanted. He said he'll think about it, so I'm leaving it at that for now. Personally, knowing his personality, he probably already sent it to Jim even after I said no, but I'll wait to see what happens. Thanks again. If anything happens, I'll update. Comments, Op was NTA. Winterfront 1431, wow, she is desperate, and you can't steal him from her if he didn't want her. He had years before you to pursue something with her, but he never did. He really should set her straight and then block her. I have had many opportunities to pursue something with you before, your name, and I didn't because I wasn't interested then and I certainly ain't interested now. You are embarrassing yourself and I quite frankly feel sorry for you, that you have lost your baby sister because you thought I was some prize to claim. I've tried to be nice about this, but now you are just being damn right disrespectful to me and my wife, so I'll spell it out. I don't want you, never have, never will. If you message me again, I will send everything to Jim. Then block. But I'd send everything to him anyway, poor guy is a backup, and he doesn't know it, save him from wasting any more of his time. Carolina Mama 2015, you said it yourself. Jim deserves better, you already don't talk to your family. What blow up are you expecting if you tell Jim? She's gonna hurt him in the long run. Update, hi. I just wanted to make a small update. As I'd thought, Bob sent the message to Jim even when I told him not to. He also screen recorded the message to prove that it came from her account, which I didn't know he did. At least one of us is smart. Anyway, I won't go into too much detail, but Jim didn't reply until last night. He called Bob and they had a long chat. Apparently, when Jim confronted Jane, she tried to blame Bob for coming on to her. They had a fight and she left to stay with our parents. I know a lot of you told me to send the screenshot to my parents. I did. I sent it to my dad, not my mom. I'm sorry, but I still can't find the strength to talk to her, and I don't think I ever will. My dad said he and mom will deal with it, and to not tell anyone what Jane did. I feel worse now for even thinking he'd side with me, lol. For anyone wondering whether Bob sent Jim the old messages from Jane from years ago, he didn't. He bought a new phone right after we cut contact, so he doesn't have them anymore. I don't know if Jim will divorce, or annual Jane, but he told Bob not to contact him anymore, so I think we did our parts already. Thankfully she hasn't come to my house, but I did take your advices about installing cameras. We'll be doing that next week. Thank you for all the help. You guys were right. Bob is my new family, so I'm not going to think about Jane or my parents anymore. We're having dinner at his parents tonight, so I'm rushing writing this lol. Thank you again. I hope you all have a good day. Comments, Eric Weiner, thanks for the update op. I'm so incredibly sorry you've got such shit garbage family. But you do have a lovely, strong husband. I'm glad you've gone NC with your family, and it's great you're putting up cameras. Hope you guys don't end up needing them, and your sister and or mom don't come over to your place because you know they'll blame you for everything, even though you've done absolutely nothing wrong. GC's sister will have mom on her side, of course. There's one thing in your first post that I caught while reading it again before your update. I might be a bit off here because I can't remember it exactly. When you told your family you and Bob were getting married and your sister freaked out, your mom said something about how you should have talked to your sister first. I'm assuming about getting married, but I'm super confused because in the beginning you did ask your sister about dating Bob, and she said it was fine. Obviously your mom had known about Jane liking Bob for quite some time, but if that's the case, WTF is wrong with your mom? How could she be okay with Jane marrying Jim if she knew all along she was in love with Bob? Your mom is quite the trash disaster, and she has the nerve to call you disgusting names? You are so much better off without your family. I put them in quotes because F them, they aren't your family anymore and you've got Bob and he's your family now. Please don't you and Bob let your guard down with your sister and parents, and even Jim. I've got a feeling this isn't the end of the story, and it's best to stay vigilant just in case. Plus you never know who they're going to send as flying monkeys. You and Bob stay safe, keep your things safe, and if need be don't be afraid to press charges if any of them do anything to either of you. And the last bit of advice I have, is try not to give them any more space in your brain and thoughts than you have to. While counseling is not a cure-all or magically makes things better, it definitely can help sort your feelings out about those, and it'll help that with couples therapy as well. All the best op. Take care of yourself. Op, my mom said I should have taken my sister's feelings into consideration and not shown off about it when she was going through a hard time with Jim. They knew I talked to Jane when I started dating Bob because I told them when I confronted her about the messages. They said I should have known Jane was trying to be the big sister and put her feelings aside to see me happy. I'm not sure what she told them, but I can guess, especially since they kept saying bad things about Bob. I've blocked my dad again, so I won't be interacting with them at all, and won't make another update. I think I just want to move on now. I've been going to therapy for about a year now, so I'm doing well. Thank you, though. Top comments, Poopshay Boots, you deserve better. I'm glad to hear that you have Bob, though. He sounds like a great partner. Razor set fires, don't let them silence you and continue to enable their daughter. Make sure everyone knows exactly who and what these people are. You're paying it forward so no one else is victimized. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Caught an STD from my GF and discovered she was cheating with a married man. So I teamed up with his wife to get the ultimate revenge on them both. Here is my story. We met on a dating app and things quickly escalated from casual to serious between us. We only ever wanted to spend time with each other. I knew right away there was something different about her that I hadn't found in any other woman. Before we slept together for the first time, we talked about STDs and testing. I'm very particular about my health, and even though I use protection with women I don't know very well, I still get tested every 6 months. My girlfriend told me that she visited an OB/GYN every 6 months and got tested there as well. At the start of our relationship, we were both negative for everything they tested for. After we became official, I still got tested. I knew that there were some rare instances where you could catch things from sharing towels or water bottles. But maybe that was just my paranoia. Regardless, my health insurance covered it, so I didn't care. I never suspected that anything was wrong in our relationship until I got the results of my STD test. I had gone in for my regular checkup and I expected the same old news that I always got. Instead, my doctor called me with the results and told me that I had trichomoniasis. I was shocked to hear that I had contracted something because the only person I'd been with was my girlfriend. I hadn't felt any symptoms or anything either. He explained to me what it was and that it often goes undetected. He put me on a series of antibiotics right away that would clear it up. As soon as I found out that I had it, I needed to talk to my girlfriend. I didn't know how else I would have gotten it. Later that night, I sat her down in the living room and I explained everything. I didn't accuse her of cheating, but I asked her about the last time she was tested. I asked her if she could go over the results to see if maybe she misread something, and she actually came back positive for it. She was offended that I was accusing her of lying about her results, but that wasn't the case. Before we got into a big argument about it, I explained to her that it could have been something that was picked up from somebody shaking my hand after they didn't wash theirs in the bathroom. I assured her that I wasn't accusing her of anything, but I just needed to know where it came from. Regardless, she needed to get tested for it as well. She scheduled an appointment for the following day and went in for the testing. It took about 5 days for the results to come back and she told me that it was negative. While we were waiting for the results, she had been acting very strangely. She could hardly look me in the eye when we would speak and it seemed like she was trying to avoid me. I didn't think that she would have cheated, but I couldn't help but wonder if it was her guilty conscience keeping her away from me. She was on her phone a lot more than usual and that struck me as odd. This is going to sound mean, but she didn't really have any friends. I didn't know who she was texting with so often. When she told me that her results came back negative, something told me that she was lying. I didn't know if it was the way she said it or what, but my gut told me not to trust it. I knew that she got an email with the results in them, so the first chance I had to take a look for myself, I found the email to read them. Through the email, I found out that she was lying. She had the same STD as me. The thing about it is, I would have understood if she had it. If I had it for a while without knowing, I could have transmitted it to her. There would have been no shame in telling me the truth. It was treatable and I had the same thing. I couldn't figure out why she would lie about it. The only reason I could think of was that she was trying to cover up the fact that she gave it to me. I had never snooped through her phone before, so I felt bad right away as I started looking. It didn't take long for me to find out that she was cheating on me. I found a text message exchange between her and an unsaved number where she informed the person that she tested positive for trichomoniasis. She asked them if they had it and they told them they didn't think they did. When she asked them about the last time they were tested, they said like 2 years ago. You might have guessed by what I mentioned earlier, but I am a little bit of a hypochondriac. I was very particular with my girlfriend when we first started dating about STDs and testing. The fact that she cheated on me with some random person who didn't even know when the last time they were tested scared me. I thought it was incredibly reckless to not have that conversation with someone. Through their other messages, I could see that they had slept together several times and were carrying out an ongoing affair. They were sending each other pictures and suggestive messages while figuring out times to get together. In one message, the person mentioned that their partner was out of town and invited my girlfriend over. With that and the cheating, I knew that my relationship was over. I want nothing to do with somebody who would sneak around behind my back with another person. I didn't say anything at first when I found out. For some reason, I felt bad about snooping through her phone, so I needed to find another way to tell her I knew about the cheating. She told me the following afternoon that she was going to be staying late at work. I remembered what I read in the messages about her going over to this random person's house because their partner wasn't home. I knew what I had to do. I took the rest of the day off work and I waited outside of my girlfriend's office so I could follow her to the other person's house. I saw her leave right on time and I followed her to a house in the suburbs. She was welcomed inside by another man who quickly ushered her in through the front door. It was obvious he didn't want his neighbors to see anything. I noticed that there was some mail in the box, so I did something illegal and took a peek to find out what his name was. I got both his name and his wife's name. After I found that and saw my girlfriend go inside the house, I didn't need to stick around for anything else. I already knew that they were having an affair, so it didn't matter if they were having sex there or not. When I got home, I looked up his wife on the internet. I wasn't positive if it was her, but I found her name attached to a small designer brand that had a booth set up at a local wedding convention. I thought that maybe things were aligning and that could have been the woman. I reached out to her and I asked her if the man was her husband because I had something to share with her. Her DMs were open for business inquiries, so I hoped she wouldn't just report me as spam. She replied asking me more about what I knew and I explained everything to her. She called me shortly after and we talked about everything over the phone. She confirmed that it was her husband and told me that she didn't have any STDs and she got tested regularly. She told me that she planned on confronting him when she returned from the convention. I sent her everything I could in regard to evidence and she thanked me for it. I then just tried to focus on what to do to get back at my girlfriend. She was reckless and she cheated on me and she gave me an STD. Yes, it was a curable one, but it didn't matter. The more I thought about what I wanted to do to get revenge, the more I realized I didn't want to see her ever again. She really had very few people in her life and I knew that losing me in itself would be a big blow to her. She came to me for everything and I was going to take that away from her. I figured I had a few hours before she got home to get my shit together and disappear. I packed up all of my clothes and some of the essentials that I had around the house like my TV and computer. Before I left, I printed out pictures of some of the messages I found alongside the test results I had sent myself. I left all of them in a nice little envelope on the kitchen table and walked out of the apartment forever. I didn't leave a note explaining how I felt or what I was doing. She was left to figure all of that out on her own. I blocked her number and I called one of my friends to see if I could crash at their place. I explained what happened and told them to keep my being there a secret and they agreed. Several hours later, he got a call from my girlfriend and she asked him if I was there. He lied and she moved on to the next person. I almost felt bad because I knew how worried she probably felt, but I didn't want to care. She wasn't my problem anymore. A few days passed and I reached back out to the wife of the man my girlfriend cheated with just to check in. We had a quick call and she explained everything that happened. They were separating, which was good. The best part of all of it was that she had a very successful business, and he had just been laid off from work. He had been trying to convince her to invest in a business of his, which she was going to do. After everything, she decided it was not in her best interest to do that. So she left him and he had no income whatsoever. I told her about what happened with my girlfriend and she thought it was hilarious. When she looked through her husband's phone, she saw that my girlfriend had contacted him several times after I left. She was very broken up about everything and needed someone to talk to, but he didn't want anything to do with her aside from sex. So my girlfriend was completely alone handling everything. I'm glad that I found out about my girlfriend's character when I did. I truly cared about her a lot and before finding out I could have seen a future with her.